Oh man, what the hell is? Yeah, this is not a schedule. This is right now. Okay. All right, and let me share this. And switch tag. All right, Diallo, mute.
Here.
Yeah, I hear
You
you.
hear me?
Yeah, mute unless you're about to start speaking. I'm about to do the intro.
Mute.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to R.I.P.S, Racism in Plain Sight, where we will be presenting information to reveal what is the system of white supremacy racism and how does it work in an effort to develop an effective number of non-white people who will help to produce justice by guaranteeing no one is allowed to be mistreated and the people who need help the most receive constructive help. So this first clip is going to be an example of the one of the 6 major racist strategies racists use, racist men and racist women, aka the white people who are dedicated to practicing racism. These people can only be white. So, Diallo, you're still not muted. So, of these strategies, the first one that this clip is going to be an excellent example of is racial classification confusion. And you could learn more if you get this book from producejustice.com. The code book. This will do wonders to help you to learn what you can do in your everyday existence to counter racism, white supremacy. So racial classification is, this is from the code book, the white supremacist racists classify people by color/non-color based on the use of the word race. There is no reason to be a member of a race except to mistreat someone because of color or non-color. The only reason for being a member of a race is to practice racism, white supremacy. Race is racism. The only reason for practicing racism is to gain so-called benefits by mistreating people based on the so-called color classification of those people. A person who functions as a member of a race is a racist. During the existence of white supremacy racism, however, only a white person can function as a race member. The white race racist. The white supremacist racist man or racist woman collectively make sure that they use whatever so-called racial classifications they can think of that will help best to control the thought, speech, and action of the non-white people of the known universe. They do this to give greater strength and focus to the system of white supremacy. This is one of the basic ways that the white supremacists establish, maintain, expand, and or refine racial confusion through illusion. So we're going to see this non-white female display her immense confusion that she carries in her mind and that she is spreading to her offspring.
Only white, but you're black and white, but are you more like whiter?
Okay.
You're just white.
I'm only white.
Yeah.
Like I said,
You're lighter color.
everybody in this car
No, it's not. Not you. Not you.
is black and white.
No, you're not. You're just white. You're just white.
Y'all not letting me explain.
All right, all right.
Okay, thank you. Let me talk. It's not about the color of your skin. That's not what it has to do with. It has to do with your parents. So granddad is black, correct?
Correct.
Grand,
Daddy's black.
Granddad is black. Grandma is white. They had me, so they came together and had me. It doesn't matter how I came out looking, but that means I am mixed with a black culture and a white culture. Black and white parents, and I'm mixed. It's not about coloring on the paper and how I look and all that. It's not about mixing colors like that. It's about who your parents are and where you came from.
So, mommy.
Yes?
Because you grew up like that. So you're not only white, but you're black and white, but are you more like whiter?
I mean, I'm equal, but it's just how I look. Like when you.
It looks like you're more whiter.
Okay. It does.
Okay, so this is why the code suggests the logical approach when discussing race. There's only three groups of people on this planet: white, non-white, and white supremacists. There's no such thing as a mixed race person. This word only furthers the confusion in one's mind and whoever else is trying to use this terminology. The little black non-white female in the back, she just looks so like confused, and maybe because a part of her knows that she's not getting the truth. This black female on the screen, the so-called mother, she is a product of a white supremacist raping a non-white male and producing offspring. During the existence of white supremacy, anytime a white person has sex with a non-white person, that is rape due to the immense power imbalance between a white person and a non-white person. Also due to the fact that the system of white supremacy places non-white people worldwide in a childlike position, a childlike state, and also it does not allow our minds to develop past that of a child, if we're really being honest with what is happening on this planet. So do not think that you are mixed. Do not think of all these racial categories that white people have taught us to believe in. There's no such thing as a Asian or a Haitian or a Puerto Rican. These are all terms used to confuse non-white people to further divide a already divided and conquered people. It just furthers our mind away from being able to figure out what is happening on this planet. Why do we consistently see incorrect things happening on this planet? So that is what is appearing here. And we're going to see a number of items on this broadcast that the racists expect and hope to last forever unless an effective number of people counter this system in order to produce justice. Justice is not what we're going to hear on this broadcast when we are discussing the cases that are going to be presented here. Justice is not throwing someone in prison. Justice is guaranteeing no one is allowed to be mistreated, and the person who needs help the most receives constructive help. That is what every non-white purpose that is what every non-white person's purpose on this planet should be dedicated to. Just like every racist, while they're on this planet, they're dedicated to keeping the system going forever. So logically, non-white people should be dedicated to producing justice so we could end all the awful things that we're going to be seeing here on this broadcast. EJ, do you have any thoughts on what we just witnessed here? You can unmute.
Never come by time. That's it.
Thank you, Diallo. EJ. Yeah, and to further that, I'm going to read from the word guide. Mixed blood slash mixed race. Do not use these terms. When others use them, ask for a detailed explanation that you can easily understand. Ask questions. What exactly is mixed blood? Is not all blood mixed? If so, mixed with what? If blood is not mixed, how can it be blood? What actually is blood? What actually is not blood? What exactly is a race? What exactly is not a race? What exactly is a mixed race? What exactly is not a mixed race? Is race and racism one and the same? If being a member of a race is not for the purpose of practicing racism, then what exactly is the constructive or destructive value in being a member of a race? If race and racism are one and the same, how can racism be mixed with non racism? How can a person be a member of a race and not be a member of a race at the same time? How can a person be a racist and not be a racist at the same time? What exactly is racism? Is racism the same as white supremacy? If white supremacy is racism and racism is white supremacy, how is it possible for any other form of racism, i.e., black supremacy, non white supremacy, etc., to exist in the same universe at the same time? Note, during the existence of white supremacist racism, and according to compensatory counter racist logic, and racially speaking, there are only three categories of people in the known universe: white people, non white people, and white supremacist races. So I do like and appreciate your observation and that and this non-white victim of racism's speaking to her children, her offspring. You can see and hear that she's getting confused because her mind has just been just so bombarded with lies her entire existence, just lied to. And this is the result. I from the chat, RB, let me get this name correct. RBG Tech says just three children speaking to each other, best to keep it accurate and constructive. And there is no accuracy in what she was saying. And I do hope that they are able to find, some understanding of the system of white supremacy, or they're going to have similar results as do most non-white people do in this system. Spend your whole existence being mistreated, being lied to, and not understanding that you're being mistreated by the simple fact that you have to lie to yourself and say that you are Black, African American, Mexican American, Asian American, Puerto Rican, Dominican, with all these racial classifications that you were told you were by the people who dominate us, racist man and racist woman. So the more understanding we have on the system, hopefully the more willing we are to counter it and to produce justice. Yeah, I think what you said was not picked up on the YouTube live. So if you want to give a quick paraphrase of what you just said or refine it a little bit briefly, can you do that? Evolutionist?
Last question. Why and who and for what are we classified as black? There is no genetic nor biological marker for color or race. There's no reason to look back and project race onto a people who have so-called color. Who are the people who said there's a thing called people of color and white people? Kind of suspicious, right? They make up 7 to 10% of the world's population, and they get to decide that everybody else is called people of color. Now, how did that turn out functionally? How did that come to be? Why? How can you be mixed with half white supremacists and half victim white supremacists? Makes no sense at all. Just means you're doubly confused because unfortunately your progenitor, non-white progenitor, had sex with an oppressor. Laid down and pleased a racist. Laid down to personalize domination and abuse based on color. And had a offspring. You're still not white. No matter what you look like, you're not them. They have said so.
And thank you. And this is why one of the worst things the code says that can happen to a non-white person is to go to the bedroom with a white person. And even more so destructive thing that can happen from that interaction is they bring to this planet a baby, a victim of racism that has a white supremacist parent and a victim of racism caretaker, to use it. And that child grows up extremely, extremely confused. I think we can move on to the next item. But everything that we're going to be covering here, it all leads back to white supremacist racism. The subtitle for this R.I.P.S is White Times, because I want to emphasize how this system is maintained by words and by thoughts and by actions. Oftentimes we hear the word dark when incorrect things have occurred. A lot of times you will hear the word dark when it's a white person doing horrible things. And that is another way white supremacy is practiced, associating incorrect things with the word dark, because it continuously implants in one's mind dark is incorrect. Dark is bad. Dark is something that needs to be cast away to bring in the light, the whiteness. So we're going to move on to our next item.
You're looking at special needs student Nancy Alexander. She was just 15 years old when she says she was supposed to be learning how to read by a teacher, but instead she got pregnant by him. And after 43 years.
All right, I'm going to pause it right there. She's also a victim of racism. She can't use her will to describe what's happening correctly, accurately. This is victim of racism. To the right of her and the white, she was raped by her white teacher and impregnated by him via rape. That is what occurred. I'm going to continue the video.
She's now breaking her silence, and we want to give viewer discretion on this story. It may be very difficult to listen to and also very difficult to watch.
I was repeatedly raped over the years.
She was placed in a special needs class. Those needs were taken advantage of.
We trusted this person to just realize that he was two different people.
Trust me, I know.
Good?
I tried to commit suicide 3 times.
More than 4 decades have passed, but Nancy Alexander says the trauma still hasn't. So you were raped
Yes,
in the school building?
in the Chicago Public School building.
For most children, school is a place to learn. For Nancy,
That's also incorrect. The school structure in the system of white supremacy is simply a place where you go, where you are taught how to be a victim of racism. You are fed lies for about 6 to 8 hours a day, and these lies make you a docile, confused, non-white person who will not have any understanding of how this planet currently functions or any will to find that out, because the system of white supremacy has made the educational system process really, really horrific for most non-white people. We don't leave the schools wanting to end racism. We leave the schools wanting to be so-called successful, wanting to do what we see white people do, doing the things that we've been taught that we should do in school, like go out and get a good career, get a wife or husband, and live happily ever after. That cannot possibly happen. That does not even happen for white people in this system. So certainly it's not going to happen for non-white people.
she says it became the place where her childhood was stolen.
It started with the funneling, touching on my breast. And that just went up the line. The older I got, he felt like, oh, I could do more.
She alleges the teacher assigned to help her read became her abuser. As a child, Nancy says epilepsy made reading difficult, and it led her to fall behind grade levels. The school assigned her to a teacher for extra help. She says that decision changed her life forever.
He would tell me I would have to stay behind. Oh, you need to take a spelling test. You know, I'm like, we're on the same, why we all can't take the spelling test together, right?
And were you raped this one time and conceived, or were you repeatedly raped?
I was
over
repeatedly
years?
raped over the years.
When did the first rape start? Do you remember how old?
I was about 12 or 13 when he started penetrating me.
Nancy says the abuse left her pregnant at just 15 years old. She gave birth and kept the secret for decades.
I didn't tell for the simple reason that he said he would take me away from my mother and my father. He said,
Now, this is another way that white supremacy is practiced. It does not allow the victims of white supremacy to tell the truth about what is occurring on this planet because of the threat of violence, retaliation, or losing the little comfort we may think we have. So this poor victim of racism has been being raped since she was being penetratedly raped from the ages 12 or 13. But even prior to these ages, she was being fondled and molested by this white teacher. And from my research, this white rapist is now a comic book store owner in someplace in this country, so-called country. So I'm going to continue.
that nobody's gonna believe me because I'm a black little girl from the projects. But it wasn't that nice word black. Okay?
What did he say?
He said ain't nobody gonna believe you because you're a little from the projects.
She says those words kept her silent until a near-death experience and questions from her daughter.
I was bleeding at the brain. Then my daughter got sick, and I was like, if I'm dying, he can't do nothing to me. But my daughter needs to know who her people are, who the go-to people are. And then I thought about it. I was like, if he raped me, he gonna do the same thing to her.
In October of 2022, more than 4 decades after she says the abuse began, Nancy filed a report with Chicago police. The incident report states the alleged sexual assault started in 1978 at the former John Farron Elementary School and continued through the summer of 1982, including, she says, inside a closet at Parkman Elementary School.
Nobody never seen it. Nobody never came in his classroom. Nobody never said anything to him. It was like he was not there.
Nancy says she was kicked out of the house at just 16 years old and forced to survive.
I said, he's out of town. And then I had to tell her the story. He dead.
Nancy and her daughter wanted answers. She turned to Ancestry.com, hoping to find a relative of Richard Neff. He's the teacher that she says abused her.
We decided to call every number. Starting at 7 o'clock in the morning, we would call. 8 o'clock in the morning, we would call. 9 o'clock in the morning, we would call all the way up to 10 o'clock at night. No answer. We finally got one answer, which was his daughter.
What made you realize that the story she was telling you was believable enough for you to drive to Chicago at some point and give up your DNA?
As she was talking and explaining the details, there was one detail that really stood out. And that was the moment that I knew that this happened. And she was talking about when my father would abuse her, he would wear this beige suit jacket on the days that it would happen. And she came to know that that was going to be what happened that day. And my father had this closet full of brown suit jackets, and I always hated the color brown. And my father was a very methodical person. He ate the same thing every day. He did the same workout every day. He had the same routine. He never deviated. And I just knew from that detail that she was telling me the truth.
That belief became action. For M, she drove more than 1,300 miles from Montana to Chicago to give police her DNA.
I trusted the police to do their job, and they didn't. So I called the...
Yeah, it's not the police job to help anyone or any... It's their job is to maintain a system of white supremacy. Police do not exist. What we actually see when we see law enforcement are race soldiers. Race soldiers. Their job is to maintain the system via threat of violence or direct violence. That's their sole purpose. To protect and serve, that's correct. But they are protecting and serving the system of white supremacy. So for this racist suspect to trust the police is silly. White people are very intelligent, so I don't know why she would trust the police. No one should trust the police.
As soon as I heard from Nancy, I got the number of the detective. I called her. I said, I would like to talk to you. I would like to tell you my story. I would like to answer any questions. I would like to be of any help that I can. I'd be happy to give my DNA.
The results answered a question that had lingered for more than 40 years. The DNA report showed a 99.79% probability that M and Nancy's daughter are half-sisters, with the same father, being Richard Neff. And it also led to another allegation.
I think the reason that I feel so close to Nancy is that we were being abused at the same time.
M is alleging she, too, was sexually abused by him and doesn't want to use her birth name.
The memories that I recovered were from ages 1 to 6.
Years after the DNA results, the criminal case has stalled. The question isn't whether science connects them, it's whether the law still can.
Look, we have not only knocked on the door of the Chicago Police Department, but we've given them everything, including DNA samples from Miss Alexander, as well as other family members from the culprit in this case.
Nancy's attorney, Jared Adams, says they've given investigators what they believe is compelling evidence, including DNA.
We're talking 2 years having confirmed, no doubt, 99.9% that she gave birth to a child of a grown man who took advantage of her.
Governor J.B. Pritzker signing HB 2135 in 2019. Illinois eliminated the statute of limitations for many sexual assault cases. It was effective January 1st of 2020.
Now, why would anyone remove the statutes of limitations towards rape unless they are attempting to maintain the system of white supremacy and further allow things like this to continue to happen? There should be no statutes of limitation towards children being raped. But in this system, you should know and understand that white people do not care about children. And this is evident of that. They signed a law that says, okay, we're going to remove statute of limitations. So if you were raped by your teacher or anybody and you took too long to tell us about it, oh well.
But according to a Chicago police report, prosecutors determined this case could not be charged because the previous statute of limitations had already expired and the new law could not be applied retroactively. We tracked down Richard Neff, now living in North Carolina, now 79 years old. I called him, hoping to give Neff the opportunity to respond to the DNA result.
Hi, Mr. Neff. My name is Tia Ewing. I'm calling with Fox Chicago.
I left a detailed message. He never returned my call.
Oh, it's awful and maddening and unfair. I just find that interesting that he found this job on the South Side.
3 women, 1 family, forever changed. 1 DNA test that answered questions only science could. But science can't decide a criminal case. For Nancy, the search for truth is over. The search for justice continues.
What does justice look like to you?
Whew. He should go to jail. I want that justice.
And we have heard from the Chicago Police Department on this story. They tell us this case is deemed exceptionally clear to close, meaning they've identified a suspect, but they can't just go and arrest him. And that's because the Cook County State's Attorney's Office says that this case has passed the statute of limitations, saying because of Illinois law, they can only go as far back to 1986. There's more of their statement on our website, Fox 30.
So I may have misunderstood and misunderstood on why they cannot pursue this case. It sounded like maybe the governor made it so the statute of limitations were extended, but because it was put into effect after the previous statute of limitations expired from her being raped, they weren't able to apply it retroactively. But still, it's very convoluted. I am also a victim of racism, doing my best to keep learning. So if I misspoke, then if I misunderstood what occurred here, my error. But it's tragic that this Black female was raped, and she thinks justice is throwing this guy who's already probably very, very old, and frail and near death's door anyway. Why doesn't she want his existence ended? People who do stuff like this should not be allowed to exist. They do not allow the air that they breathe. Their behavior is proof that they are life unworthy of existence. So I don't know why she doesn't want a more grave consequence for this white supremacist, but it's very tragic that she doesn't. Diallo, evolutionist, are you still with us? Evolutionist, are you still with us? All right. If you are with us, you want to share some thoughts on this, we could come back to it. But I'm going to move on to the next item.
The most serious issue I have with the United Nations is the fact that Africa is not part of the Security Council. We're talking about 54 countries. A whole continent does not have one person representing Africa when it comes to decision making at the Security Council. You know, every time an African come forward for something, that they have to be a decision maker for the world, not just Africa. It's just not possible.
I understand.
So what can I say? There must be a prescription somewhere that says, Africa, you are not good enough. The UN should see Africa as partners. And the United Nations, definitely, you cannot have 7 countries vetoing everything. When it comes to Africa issue, it is those 7 countries. Who are the countries that are actually exploiting Africa? They're the ones who have the veto power to make decision on anything that has to do with Africa. So for me, I think that is wrong. Our mission is to get the United Nations to see Africa not as one country, because that's the mistake they do. When you say I'm from Africa, they say, oh, you're from Nigeria. I said, no, Nigeria is one country in Africa. You know, we have 54 countries in Africa. So see us as a continent that what Africa gives to the world, Europe don't have it, America don't have it, Asia don't have it. Because we are not mining in China, we are not doing any mining in America or mining in Europe. But they're doing it in every part of Africa. Not just Sierra Leone, go to Democratic Republic of Congo, go to Botswana, go to Angola, go everywhere there is mineral resources. It is the West and the Chinese who are there.
So another example of racial classification confusion, because unfortunately, Africans have not been allowed to come into existence. Africans, Americans, and Asians, and every sort of racial classification of person that we use on this planet, they all mean the same thing. It is a person who practices justice. Justice is not on this planet. So Africans, Americans, Asians do not exist. Remember, there's only 3 groups of people on this planet, according to the code and according to the evidence that white people provided with 24/7. There's white, non-white, and white supremacists. The reason we're allowed to think that there's 54 countries in Africa is because that is a lot of confusion. White people do not pay attention to borders or the tribes of people. They understand that they created borders for non-white people. They allow Nigerians and Ghanaians and Botswanans and Mozambiquans to think that they are these groups of people because it confuses the mind. We would get so much more clarity if we understood the planet on how white people have arranged it. And they've arranged it over this simple equation, which is white over non-white. Africa, according to the code, does not even exist. America does not exist. What we see is just various areas of the world dominated by white supremacy racism. Every place on the planet is the same. An area dominated by white supremacy racism. So what you call it really doesn't even matter, to be honest. To an extent, it does, because people are conditioned to believe that these places exist. So it's easier to communicate to them if you use the words that they understand. But the area of the world known as Africa also happens to be the place where the most dark people are there. And she's talking about the United Nations, which is white people, white supremacists, who, like evolutionists said earlier, 7% of the population, white people, that's their number, 7% of the population control the entire globe. They have more power of what is happening on the continent than the dark people who dwell there, because I wouldn't call that living. I wouldn't call it living if you are on a landmass with trillions of dollars of resources that you cannot benefit from, that you cannot control. The dark people on the continent do not control that landmass. They may have given some numbers of them lots of money, and they tell them that they have power and that they're in control, but that's a lie. When those dark people try to actually benefit and help the people there, they are often destroyed or sabotaged and prevented from doing so. So that is why this fellow victim racism is attempting to bring clarity and asking the question, like, why is it that the United Nations is controlling the continent? The answer is because we exist in the system of white supremacy, which dominates the entire planet. Africa is a place where justice is, where no one is mistreated and everyone gets the help that they need. America is a place where everyone gets the help that they need and no one is mistreated. But that does not happen on this planet. What happens is people being mistreated on the basis of their color. So, America does not exist. Africa does not exist. We've been lied to and told that they exist, but they do not. According to the code, according to compensatory counter racist logic, these are race camps. Just areas where racism still is and the non-white people suffer the most, and white people benefit from the suffering and mistreatment of non-white people. That exists, but not these concepts they placed in their minds, like Africa, India. They're just places on a map, places on a map. And like I said earlier, white supremacists do not pay attention to borders. Why? They are the ones who made the borders. They are the ones who came up with these classifications that they force us to call ourselves. I do hope this is communicating to the folks who will find this broadcast and the folks tuning in to the broadcast right now. Evolutionists, are you there? If you are, you can come on mute. You can come unmute and chime in. Until then, I'm going to continue on with the items here. So, in the system, we are lied to and taught to believe that white people are out having a grand old happy time, loving families, and all this nonsense. That's also not true. There's no such thing as a family, I would say. A family is a family that helps one another. They're able to protect one another, and they certainly do not kill each other. But on this planet, we can observe a common behavior pattern of white people killing family members or killing the whole family. This white supremacist, I would suspect, is one of those individuals who, because this person had a quote unquote good job, living well, we would be led to believe, but for some reason still decided to kill all of his children. It looks like one of these offspring is non-white actually. The one on the far right looks non-white, so likely also a rapist. Anywho, why do white people constantly kill their families? Perhaps it's because that this system, while it may give them a lot of comfort, a lot of trinkets, a lot of things that they can brag about, it still does not satisfy them. For some reason, even though white people have it all, they have the power, they have the access. If you are a white homeless person, all you gotta do is put on a suit or just go to some social welfare building and they'll help you out. They'll get you right on your feet. So white people have it all, but yet they still go around killing each other, killing non-white people constantly. They do that for fun. But why do they kill their families? It's because I suspect, and I could be in error, it's because even though maybe when you dedicate yourself to such an evil system, maybe that's the result. Or they're just insatiable, and even though they have it all, they still have the need, want, an urge to kill themselves and their families. Truly, truly a sickening planet. We were all born on this planet. And we all should be motivated to, hey, I kind of want this stuff to stop. The death, the destruction, the stupidity, the confusion. I want it to stop. And it's not going to stop by protesting. It's going to stop when an effective number of non-white people, because luckily we do outnumber them by a lot. We just have to develop the courage, the understanding, the will to just, I'm just going to use I'm going to use my thoughts. I'm going to think, hey, this planet sucks. I'm not going to lie to myself anymore. I'm not going to lie to myself and think this planet is this grand old place and a bunch of happy stuff happens here and, all this love is here. You're lying to yourself. You're absolutely lying to yourself if you think that love exists on this planet, on a planet where children are allowed to be raped and killed. Love is justice, and justice is peace. They all mean the same thing according to the code, and these things are not allowed to exist. They don't currently exist because people are still mistreated worldwide on the basis of their color. And why I promote justice is because that's the solution to racism. When you guarantee no one is allowed to be mistreated and the person who needs help the most receives constructive help, that puts an end to racism and white supremacy. That will allow people to develop into people that they should be. People who practice peace, people who help one another, not because we're going to get rewarded for it, but because that's the thing we should do. We should want to help people. We should not want to see people be mistreated. But because we live, my bad, I keep using that word, like because we exist in an evil system, not only do we accept people being mistreated, we're entertained by it. There's a whole genre of movies, video games, books, and a plethora of entertainment where we laugh and enjoy people being mistreated. And that's part of the insane system we were born into. So this person, he worked for the American Heart Association. His job seemingly was to help people, but it did not prevent him from killing his family and himself. A lot of white people on this planet will go on to do something similar because this system does not make white people good people. It has seemingly made them people who enjoy killing, who enjoy mistreating people. In fact, it forces them to mistreat people, to kill people. The military industrial complex is solely based off killing, mistreating people, maintaining the system of white supremacy. So this is what we're dealing with here on planet Earth. We're not dealing with a democratic problem, a Republican problem, a left-wing problem, a right-wing problem. We are dealing with the system of white supremacy. All problems lead to the system of white supremacy. Every problem you've ever had is not because of your own flaws, it's because you are a victim of racism and you are supposed to be in a pitiful, pitiful position. Now, the white people may have allowed you to have some comfort. You may think you have a good job and whatnot, but you are only allowed that because some racist white supremacists have allowed you to do so. It's not because you have any power. It's not because you're better than any other non-white person. And it's not because there are good white people out there. Where are we going next? Cartel leader arrested for live stream execution of TikToker who dumped his son. A suspected Mexican cartel leader has been arrested after authorities linked him to the live stream murder of TikTok influencer Valerie Marquez. I don't need to read anymore. This is what happens on planet Earth. Who are the cartel? White people, white supremacists who maintain their power over others by violence. It looks like she's also, well, she's dead now, so she can't be a white supremacist, but she was probably a racist suspect anywho. But that does not mean she should have been killed, live streamed. You know, she should not have been killed unjustly. But this is what happens constantly in the cartel. We always associate the cartel with so-called Mexican people. They're white supremacists. They're no different from the military here. You know, they do things a little differently, but the end result is what? Maintaining the system, maintaining power over others via threat of violence or direct violence. Super horrific. But as long as white supremacy exists, we should expect things like this to continue indefinitely, forever. That's what the racists have stored, have planned. So this should be motivation for all of us to solve this problem. I didn't even comment on this last item, but I suspect a fellow victim of racism observed that the picture choices on these stories is always interesting, and I agree. You always see like a happy family. If they look, they look happy in this picture. Some would say, I think I got a picture of him. Yep, smiling, happy. There's a picture of him. But yeah, smiling and happy. That's deception. Masters of deception. Because he still killed his family. Why not just use a picture of him? Anywho, I'm not gonna spend too much time or take up much of you guys' time, the people who are tuning in or the people who will tune in later. We're just gonna keep it going.
Target Jewish students, your actions will not disappear into the darkness.
There's that word, disappear into the darkness. Always associating darkness with something incorrect.
Will shine a light on you that, thanks to Google and SEO, will follow you for the rest of your life. When you look for a job, when you look for a spouse, when you look for a nanny, when you look for anything, our work will always be documented, again, thanks to Google and SEO. In corporations where DEI leaders smeared Israel, excused Hamas, we pressured CEOs. Some resigned, many were terminated, but policies were changed, thankfully, from governmental to art institutions. Online, where anonymous accounts spread violent threats, we traced patterns, elevated evidence, and worked with authorities, leading to arrests from Florida, South Carolina, New York, California, and Texas. And we're not slowing down, sadly. Today, Stop Anti-Semitism, I'm proud to say, runs one of the most robust anti-Semitic enforcement operations in the United States, monitoring campuses, digital networks, activist groups, and public officials, documenting incidents in real time and mobilizing millions of people, of allies that are quietly by our side. But the fight is bigger than the exposure, and it's about securing a future where Jewish students can walk across a quad without being screamed at, a future where employers understand that anti-Semitism is not activism, it's bigotry, and it will cause you to lose your job.
Now, imagine if non-white people got the same treatment. Imagine if you got in a big trouble for mistreating non-white people. You don't. Israel, like Africa, does not exist. The Israel I've observed today is another place where white supremacists dominate, and they're dropping bombs on non-white people that they call Palestinians. That's what I observe. I don't know what a Jew is. I know what a white person is. I know what a white supremacist is, and I know what a non-white person is. I think I may be looking at a white supremacist who is threatening anyone who does not agree with the way she wants to practice racism. Now, she's using this word Jew, but it really means white in this regard, in this manner. And in most times you hear this word Jew, it usually means white, because white people are protected, not non-white people, everywhere on the planet. She said a bunch of DEI, which is code. White people speaking code, racists speaking code for non-white people. She's saying that the non-white people who spoke against Israel, they were punished. White supremacists are rarely punished for mistreating non-white people. White supremacists have yet to be punished. And this is coming from Smokey Damages, Racism Reviews. And he made a post that white supremacists were not punished for chattel slavery. They were not punished for what King Leopold did in the Congo, chopping off hands to produce rubber. White supremacists have not been punished for any of their crimes against people, crimes against humanity. Why not? It's hard to punish the people in charge of the planet, especially if non-white people don't have it in their minds that, hey, they should be punished. This should not be allowed to happen. There should be consequences for mistreating us, but we've been taught to turn the other cheek. We've been taught to turn to the Bible and to do a bunch of worthless things, but nothing serious like, let me think. Let me let me think about this system. How, like, what is actually going on here? And what can I do about it? How can I use my thoughts? Because simply using your thought, that's a great start. Thinking that justice can be produced on this planet, that's a grand thought. No longer using your words to stop lying to yourself. You can use your thoughts and say, I'm not black. I have been racially classified as black to further my subjugation. The fact that I have to call myself black is proof I've been subjugated, because I did not come to this planet and decide I was black. I was told I'm black. I was told I'm Mexican. I was told I'm Asian. I was told these things that are not true. White people have made me do these things against my will, against my knowledge. And I want to use my action. I'm going to use my time, energy to be constructive. No longer going to waste large amounts of times mistreating other non-white people, laughing at our pitiful state, name calling each other, harming each other. Anyway, I'm going to direct all my attention on becoming the best version of myself so I can help to produce justice. Because if large numbers of non-white people simply stop participating in a lot of the stupid activities they've conditioned us to do, that will begin to sabotage the system. When you get non-white people to stop mistreating each other, that would do wonders to counter the system. Because one of the ways the system works is because they've taught us to mistreat each other and to have fun by doing it. And we mistreat each other in a plethora of ways. And if we stopped, that would get us leagues closer to producing justice than going along with their lies. You can stop by. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I am a prisoner of war. I was born in a war. Racism is a war against non-white people. The moment I was incepted, I was made a prisoner. I was a prisoner in the womb. Before I even came out the womb, I was a prisoner. That's the reality. Stop lying to yourself. Israel, Africa, they do not exist. What you see when you look at those areas are areas dominated by a racist man and racist woman. So this is from the area of the world known as Bangladesh, another area where dark people are there in numbers. And this is how they've been conditioned to exist. They are forced to live in squalor, surrounded by filth, garbage. Now, I'm sure if they had a choice, if they had their choice, they wouldn't want to exist in this manner. But perhaps they're not allowed the means to do something about this. Landfills exist because white supremacy exists. It produces so much stuff and garbage, it has to go somewhere. We just throw we will just throw it where the dark people are. We'll create islands of trash and let the non-white people deal with it, or not deal with it because it just becomes like this. Imagine this is your dwelling where 24/7 surrounded by filth and trash. Imagine what that does to the mind. Our minds already zapped being subjected to white supremacy. This furthers that mental illness, I would imagine. And if you read these comments, you will see a lot of white people commenting saying, littering was so normal. We didn't even think about it because white people, they don't have to think about much as long as they are dedicated to the system. They know my main job is not taking care of the planet, not helping people. If I'm a white person dedicated to white supremacy racism, my main job is maintaining the system. I'm not supposed to care about the planet. I am supposed to lie to the non-white people and get them to think I care about the planet, care about people, but I don't. I care about maintaining this system. I care about the benefits and comfort I get from the system. I only bring white children here to further this system, not because I'm gonna love my white child and teach it all it needs to know to be the best person. Nope. We just need white babies. And it takes two white people to make a white baby. That's all it is. They don't come together for love or for anything else other than the system of white supremacy needs white children. That's why. So, as long as racism exists, non-white people in large numbers will continue to live in filth, squalor. Yeah, even if most non-white people there decided, hey, let's clean up all this trash. Where's it gonna go? I don't think they have the means and resources to dispose of this. Perhaps an example of our position. Yeah. Next item.
Good morning, everybody. Y'all get to see my lovely face again this morning. Almost back to back, because I had a video last night. Now I have one this morning. So I've been reading some very concerning comments on DFW Teacher Lounge about everyone's experience yesterday for the first day back for professional development. Very concerning things that I've seen. One is classroom doors have to remain open the entire time while teachers are teaching. I think that's a complete safety issue. Number two, Elevate campuses are going to have these webcams pointing at the children in the class. As a parent, no, I do not want you videoing or having a webcam on my child all day long. So definitely concerned about that. And then one of the most concerning things I read is that during a teacher's professional development, they shared that the whole group was told the reason for Fort Worth ISD's TAF rating was the Black community. Now, multiple reasons why I'm floored and flabbergasted over this. One, I'm the mother of two beautiful African American sons.
All right, we don't need to watch all of this. We have a white supremacist here, and what makes her a white supremacist? She has non-white offspring. She's calling them African American. She's lying to us. She's lying to herself. She's lying to those offspring. But what I gather from this is that the white supremacists that she works for are blaming their failures on the Black community. Non-white people have no communities. A community is a place where you can thrive and you're protected and you're not subjected to racism. The only people not subjected to racism are white people. So those are the only communities that exist. And if they're out here killing each other, killing their families, That's not a community I want to be a part of anyway. The community we should all bring to planet Earth is a community where no one is mistreated and everyone gets the help that they need. That's a community we should be trying to bring here. But scapegoating non-white people is a very common behavior pattern we can observe here on this planet. Let's blame the non-white people. Blame the most powerless people, the most confused people. Blame them. They won't even understand what's happening for the most part. So yeah, unfortunate. The educational system is not designed to make us intelligent, problem solvers, people who care about other people, people who care about the planet, people who care about peace, justice, and love. Nope. It's just a place you go to get indoctrinated with lies. So you come out thinking you're a proud American. You know, insane. And these classrooms are gonna have to leave the door open. You want the doors open in every classroom where white people prove that they're willing to go into the classroom and shoot all these kids. That doesn't sound logical. Unfortunately, white people have a behavior pattern of getting guns, taking them to schools, and killing children. That happens a lot on this planet. And now some schools are gonna have to always have their doors open. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. But hey, the system is an insane system. You should see it as a giant, insane asylum. And if you were born in it, you are functionally insane because you have to be insane to tolerate this, to be subjected to this. The only reason I have not killed myself is because I think and I know justice can be produced. And I want to use my time on this planet trying to bring justice to this planet. Because we've been led to believe that racism is going to be here forever. It's too hard to get rid of. Logically speaking, anything put together by people can be taken apart by people. Racism is arranged and maintained by people, by the white supremacists and their dedication, and non-white people's confusion and unwillingness to come from under that confusion so they can promote truth, that which is. The truth is, this planet should not be this way. The planet doesn't suck, but what's been done to this planet sucks. Where are we going next?
Prisoner Review Board has unanimously decided against releasing former Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson. Grayson was seeking medical release as he battles stage 4 colon cancer. A jury convicted Grayson of second-degree murder in the killing of Sonia Massey inside her kitchen 2 years ago. He and another deputy were responding to Massey's 911 call about a possible prowler outside of her home. Once inside, Grayson then fired his gun. He claimed he thought Massey was about to throw a pot of boiling water at him. Grayson did not attend today's hearing. He has served 6 months of his 20-year sentence so far. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster is following this and joins us now. Shaq, it was an emotional hearing. Many members of Massey's family spoke. Take us through what happened and the rules around medical release that Grayson tried to use here.
Hi there, Ellison. Well, you mentioned that Grayson is currently dealing with stage 4 colon cancer. And in his application to this review board, a physician says that that condition will likely result in death within the next 18 months. Further, deeper in that application, they say that he will suffer, quote, medical incapacity within that period of time. So he was asking this review board to essentially release him from prison. But you had Sonia Massey's family there pushing back emotionally and aggressively to that idea. I want you to listen to a little bit of what we heard from her father.
Look at what it will do to our family. if he is released today on this compassionate release, he showed my child no compassion.
When the judge issued that maximum sentence, 20 years in prison, the judge said that Grayson showed unreasonable rage that needed to be deterred, the prison board upholding that sentence.
Good. But Sonia Massey called the people she was conditioned to think she should call for help the police. There's a prowler nearby, you know. I need help. They came to her, he came to her house, killed her, shot her. And I do suspect, like many of us, she was experiencing immense levels of confusion. Because I do recall her rebuking him in the name of Jesus, whatever that means. Whatever that means. She should still be on planet Earth. If she was on planet Earth still, she probably could have became a attempted counter-racist soldier. Perhaps she could have realized all the lies she was fed and maybe been a person who promoted justice. But now she is dead. So this person, like I said earlier, white supremacists do not deserve the air they breathe. They do not deserve to exist. They should not exist. Racism, white supremacy should not exist. Do not let white people, white supremacists tell you, racism is going to be here forever. It's not going anywhere. Why? Why isn't it going anywhere? Is it because you people will be dedicated to this forever until we solve the problem? Until non-white people begin to do what needs to be done to remove it? The code book, producejustice.com, promotes counter violence. Will non-white people need to practice counter violence to the degree that we receive violence to get closer to justice? If so, so be it. It is a much better behavior pattern we can practice than what we are doing now. And before I continue, I want to take a moment to greet Still Learning, RTR, greetings. Oh wow, that's an excellent. I'm not in the know of Tyler Perry's movies these days, but back to this clip I spoke on with the white supremacists threatening people for being so-called anti-Semites, anti-Semitism. Still Learning says, meanwhile, Tyler Perry movie Joe's College Road Trip had more N-word use than a Tarantino movie. The N-word is good for box office receipt, and anti-Semitism leads to prosecution. Yeah. Yeah, imagine if non-white people were allowed to have an anti-defamation league that you got in trouble for mistreating non-white people. Imagine if you got in trouble for mistreating non-white people. We would not have to subject ourselves to a lot of noise where non-white people are bragging about killing each other. That won't be allowed. Find me one song where white people brag about killing each other, or where Jews brag about killing each other. Yeah, they're not allowed to do that because they understand the damage that does to a people. That understands that it makes a people worthless less than people who would not allow such a thing to take place. But these are things that were forced upon non-white people. And instead of understanding that, you know what, nah, we're not going to do that, they've convinced us with the comfort. All right, All right, now, white fella, if you get on this mic and brag about killing people who look like you, we'll give you a lot of money. All right, now, white lady, if you get on this mic and brag about being a hoe and a bitch, we'll give you a lot of money and comfort. At what cost? The only authority racism and white supremacy answers to is racism and white supremacy. That is correct. That is correct.